everybody, welcome to the vlog. So today I wanted to talk to you about something that I have a lot of personal experience with. Those of you who are college students right now or even just out of college will definitely identify with this, or at least most of you. Raise your hand if you've been extremely poor in college. 2 hands for me. Very, very poor in college. And let's face it, I'm a working musician, so still very poor. Because I had such a lack of funding in college, I figured out so many ways to help me get through it. Today I wanted to share with you some of my best tips for saving money while going through school. For my first tip in the video, this might not be something that is cost effective on a month-to-month basis while you're in school, but it saves a ton of money in the long run and it is so worth it. Really research your living options. At the college I attended, we were required to live on campus for the first 2 years. After that, we could continue to live on campus or we could live off campus. Well, when I did the math, it was an extra $10,000 a year to live on campus in a dorm. That was because you weren't only just paying for the dorm, you were also paying for the meal plan that you had to get if you lived on campus. This was ridiculous because I would not be eating that much food. Let's face it, I wasn't like a big football player who would pile on 3 plates full of pizza. I was someone who would just have like my little salad or my little piece of chicken and that was it. I wasn't eating that much food a day. So it just didn't make sense. Not to mention, I wouldn't spend that much on housing if I lived off campus. So after doing all of that math, even though it would cost me a certain amount of money per month to be paid towards my rent, whereas if I lived on campus, I would be paying that all at the end in tuition money, I saved so much money in the long run. So my last 2 years, I lived in a house right off campus with 5 people, and it was fantastic. It was so much fun, and I saved so much money doing it. And now I owe like $20,000 less in student debt because I decided to live off campus those final 2 years. Now, if you're someone who lives in New York, I can imagine maybe it's less expensive to live in a dorm or on campus. It depends really on where you live, what city you're in, where your college is at, and you can even save more and more money if you live with your parents, but that really only works if you go to college in town where your parents live. My next tip, I was extremely frugal with money as far as grocery shopping went. In fact, I was really proud of the fact that I could live off of $20 a month on food. That might be a little too cheap, to be honest, but it worked. I made it work for me. In my town, we had a Winco, which was a very cost-effective supermarket. Other cities, you might have a Winco or you might have other types of bargain grocery stores. Utilize them. Oftentimes it's not like the food expires right away. There's still plenty of time to eat the food without it expiring. You can especially get fresh foods for so much less money. It's really, I can't emphasize enough how worth it is and how much cheaper your bill is going to be at a grocery store like that. I also chose really wisely what I was going to eat. Probably it wasn't the healthiest of options because my main goal was to keep the cost low, but you can do it if you really have to. So I was constantly eating egg sandwiches. I would get English muffins, super cheap, like less than $1 for a whole thing of them. And then I would get eggs, also super cheap. And then I would make scrambled eggs and put them on top of the English muffins, throw a little bit of like mustard on it or mayonnaise depending. And there you go, an egg sandwich. Really easy, really simple. Also top ramen. I can't emphasize enough how easy top ramen is to make it into a better meal. You could choose to cook it without the packet and add the condiment of your choice. You could add red pepper flakes to make it spicy. There are so many options for it. Granted, it probably has like 0 nutritious value whatsoever, so I really don't advocate that for health. But if you are on such a tight budget that you can't afford groceries, it's definitely worth it. And I was like that at the time. I really couldn't afford groceries. Like $20 a month max. That was my grocery bill. Also cereal. Maybe not always the healthiest choice, but cereal was a lifesaver. I could get milk and cereal and that was cheap. If you are really craving a dish from one of your favorite restaurants and you just don't have the money to go out and buy it, recreate it. Go on Pinterest. There are so many recipes on there now that you can make practically anything, and you can make it cheaper than you would buy it in a restaurant. I welcome you to try it. It's actually, I think, turned into one of my favorite hobbies, is to go and try out all these really new cool recipes. Now, if my friends wanted to go out and get food every now and again, because I'd saved so much on groceries, I could get food with them. Otherwise, sometimes I would go with, and usually some restaurants will have like chips and salsa or bread beforehand, so I would just kind of munch on that, and then I'd get like an iced tea and be totally fine, and I just wouldn't eat a meal, because if everyone else is eating at the table, it shouldn't really matter if you were there or not to the waiter or waitress. And that was a really good way for me to continue to go out with friends, but maybe not necessarily spend so much on myself. Also, if you order an appetizer for a meal, it's a lot cheaper than ordering a full meal. And if you're still hungry afterwards, you can go home and eat that cereal for dessert. Yay, Lucky Charms! Makes for a really good dessert. Also, if you have friends who want to go out, it's okay to say no. If you can't spend the money, don't spend it. It's not worth that financial stress. You know, if you're 18 to 22 years old and you're in school and you are worried about being able to pay your rent the next month, your friends will understand. And you can do things cheaply with friends. You don't have to go all out. You don't have to go for like a movie in a theater along with all the popcorn and a dinner beforehand and mini golf afterwards. You don't have to do that. Arrange to have movie nights at home. Get Netflix, binge watch something with people. Go out and do something fun like biking or running together. There's so many other options you can do with friends where you don't have to be spending a whole bunch of money. Now, obviously, if you're in college, you're probably going to need some furniture. Likewise, if you are a person who has just graduated and you're moving into your first apartment, you will probably also need furniture. One of the best ways to do this, there are usually like buy and sell pages for colleges, so you can get lots of furniture from there. I got like a desk for $10. I got a bed for free. I got a bed frame for free. I borrowed a friend's couch who was moving away for a year on like a study away trip and didn't need it, and so I got to use that. There's so many different ways you can do furniture cheaply without spending an arm and a leg on it. There's also sites like Craigslist. If you live in a certain town that has like a buy and sell webpage for the town, you can use that. Do your research online. Figure out how you can buy used items for super cheap. And usually it's very worth it. Maybe it won't be all matchy-matchy like you see in some dorm pictures, but really, I mean, how many people have the matchy-matchy stuff? I didn't know that many at all. So really, you're not missing out. Don't worry about that. Now, obviously, you're going to need to wear clothes to school, I would hope. I found some great sites where I could buy clothing for cheaper and still appear fashionable, because I have a weakness for clothes. I love to dress up. I love to be fashion forward. So that was something that actually was a bigger deal to me, to make sure that I was appearing professional and well dressed whenever I needed to be. And especially as someone who performed, I needed audition clothes. I needed performance clothes, and I found some really great ways to get those clothes for less money. Goodwill is your friend. I found literally a completely beaded gold evening gown at Goodwill for an insanely cheap price. So you can find everything. If I can find an evening gown completely gold and beaded, you can find, you know, basic clothing for class or for going out with friends. It's super easy. You just have to get a feel for knowing what brands are good, what fabrics are good and are gonna wash well, what will look really good on your body, and what is obviously not so worn. But actually, a lot of my main basic pieces are from places like Goodwill, where I have really lucked out finding huge discounts. Clothes and jackets that were literally hundreds of dollars when they were first purchased that I would get for less than 20 bucks. That's a lot of savings when you add it up. That's a lot of money to look very expensive and not actually spend the money to do that. Not to mention, your college might even have a clothing specific buy, sell, and trade page, as well as the town you're living in. Look at those. You never know what people are giving away. A lot of times people are trying to sell things that they bought and they never wore, so sometimes you can find things literally with the tags still on them, never worn. Now, if you're on Facebook and you have those ads pop up for all of those clothing websites, but you're not quite sure if you should trust them because the prices are just so low that it feels like maybe it's one of those things where you buy it and it looks nothing like the picture, like the pictures were stolen from someone's Instagram or something. I never trusted those sites. So if you are like me and you really don't trust those and you don't want to throw your money at it just in case it's not real, I have a solution for you. Besides getting used clothing, you can get brand new clothing for very cheap. There are stores like Marshalls and Ross that do sell clothing that comes from other stores that hasn't sold, but my favorite store of all time is HauteLook.com. And that is when things are sold at Nordstrom and they leave Nordstrom, they go on discount at Nordstrom Rack. Well, when things leave the rack, they go to HauteLook.com. That's HAUTE look.com. We'll put it in the comments, but it is definitely so worth it. There are events that come up every day and you can find incredible clothes for an incredible clearance discount. Now, you might not be wearing something that has just come out that season, but really, who pays attention in school? On a practical level, planning really helps to save money and to manage money. I created an Excel document for every single month. I got one paycheck once a month from my school from all the jobs that I had. I made an Excel spreadsheet which had on it every paycheck that I got and then all the bills that I had to pay, and then I would estimate how much money I would have to spend on certain things, certain necessities. So for example, I would also subtract groceries for an estimated $20. I would subtract, gas for an estimated $15, however much that is on whatever you need to spend money on. Add that in there, even if it's not an exact amount that you know every single month, just so you get a feel of how much you're going to have left over. And that was incredibly helpful. That actually allowed me to put some money into my first ever savings account. Now, granted, my savings account was never big in college, it still isn't, but it was a really good way for me to start that, whereas I had none in high school. Now, if you're someone who has a debit card or a credit card, like most of you, I imagine, do, it can be really easy to overspend accidentally because you're not keeping complete track in your mind of every single little purchase. Those can add up really quickly. So something I found that I could do to combat that was to take cash out of my bank. If I knew, okay, I have to spend this much on bills, I have this much money I think I'm going to need to spend in necessities, I'm going to leave myself a $20 buffer and then take the rest out in cash. And that's the only fun money I can spend for the month. So I have to use that money, say I have $30, I have to use $30 for the whole month or however long that pay cycle is to go out with friends, grab a coffee, buy a sweatshirt, whatever I needed to do or wanted to do for fun had to be in that money allotment. And that helped me to not have to take from my savings account and not spend money on a credit card, and it really kept me in check. Plus, any of the extra coins that I had, I put those all in a jar, and at the end of the year, I brought those to one of those Coinstar machines, and it came out to like $80 of just extra little change. And so I actually used that for myself to go on a wardrobe shopping spree for fun, because it was a reward for myself for doing so well by saving money and only using what I had. One of the things that really helped me to save money in school was to not get cable. I knew houses of college students where they paid a bunch of money to get cable and HBO and all this fancy stuff. I spent like $5 on a Netflix subscription. That was super easy, and I was always entertained when I wanted to be with Netflix. It was fun, and I utilized my college library. If I had wanted to watch a movie and have a movie night with friends, we could go to the library, check out a movie, and watch it. A DVD player is really cheap nowadays. You can get them for like 15 bucks, and that provides endless entertainment. So between Netflix and DVDs from your library, you can really do a lot. Also, for technology, you don't have to buy things new. You can get used Apple laptops that have been totally debugged and renewed and refreshed on the Apple website. You don't have to buy a new Mac. You can get one from like last year that someone has used and then go ahead and bought the brand new one. Like, you don't have to have a new laptop every time. You can have something practically new that works just as well and be just fine. I actually didn't buy a laptop in college. My dad had finished using his laptop and was getting a new one, so I just took his old one. And this is actually really funny because he had waited and waited and waited as long as he could to get a new laptop because he didn't want to spend the money. And so this laptop, by the time I had it in college, was like 10 years old. And I'm not even joking, it was 10 years old. And so it finally died when I was part of the way through school. During finals week, of like the best times to die, that's when it died. And when I brought it into Apple to look at it to see if they could fix it in any way, they actually called all the service people over to look at it because it was so ancient. They hadn't even seen parts for this computer in years. They didn't even make it. It was like mechanical or something. It wasn't using a chip of some kind that they use now. It was just that ancient, but it worked for me. Really, all I needed was the internet and Word and Excel and those programs in school. I didn't need something brand new. So I saved money with that. And then I had a friend so graciously and generously offer me her old laptop to use for the remainder of college. And that was just incredible because really all I needed were those main central programs. I didn't need anything super fancy to get through school. Of course, if you have a major that requires something fancier, that might be something you want to allocate more of your funds to. Textbooks in school, never buy new. Never buy them from your college bookstore. The best way to get them, go to half.com, go to halfpricebooks.com, go to Powell's Books website. Use textbooks from people the year before you. Oftentimes colleges will have Facebook pages dedicated to people selling their old used textbooks. And this can work so well. I saved hundreds of dollars. I didn't know this my freshman year. So I bought directly from the bookstore new, and it cost me like $500 for textbooks. That was money I didn't have. I had to borrow from a family member. But after that, I learned about all these different websites you can find textbooks on, and you don't even have to buy them. You can rent them now for really cheap and then return them at the end of the semester. There's all these tools now for that, and it saved me so much money for the rest of my college career. Now, if you have supplies you know you're going to need to restock them throughout the year or throughout time, like printer paper and ink or makeup or hair supplies, different things like that, make sure that you subscribe to all these different companies that you like for that, their newsletters. So when you see a sale come up or you receive a coupon, you can go and get it. That way when you need the item, you'll already have it, and you will have gotten it for so much cheaper than if you were to buy it at that moment. Of course, do this within reason. If there's a sale on cereal, you don't need to go out and buy 10 boxes of cereal. You can just, buy one or two, and that'll probably get you through for a long time. Like I said, I love fashion, but I also loved hair and makeup and all of the stuff that goes with that. Now, I didn't have money to go and get a manicure or a pedicure every single month like some of my friends did. So I just did it myself. I just got myself, a base color and a couple nice options for colors, and would paint my nails once a week or once every other week. And that way I always have fresh nails, and I felt really good about that. And I also didn't spend an arm and a leg on makeup. I made do with drugstore makeup. I watched YouTube to see people's recommendations, and I was able to buy cheaper makeup that worked well for me and that I was very pleased with. And who would know the difference? No one would know the difference looking at me. Ooh, I almost forgot. One of the best ways that I was able to get things without paying anything was at the end of the year, each year of school. Because people would leave things outside the dorm room or in the dorm lobby with like free signs on them. So I knew people who got TVs and couches and blenders and all of this crazy stuff for absolutely free. My favorite find was a mini fridge, and then my other favorite find was literally a toaster oven, and they were in perfect condition, and I still have them and I still use them after school. And this refrigerator, I looked at it online afterwards, it was like $300 originally, and I got it for free off the side of the dorm, and it works perfectly. So that is a great resource for you. I'm sure many of your colleges have something like this that happens, and maybe even events where you just bring everything you want to give up and give away. My point is, there is a way to save on everything, literally everything. You just have to do your research. Compare products, Compare stores. Know what other people have done to save money on that. Ask people questions. Ask them how they were able to afford something, like if they got a great deal on something. You never know what you're going to be able to find. If there's a need, there's a way to fill that need, and there is a way to do it in a cost-effective way. You just have to figure out what that is. All right, you college students and you postgraduates, if you liked my video, if you used the same ways to save that I used, if you have other ways that you want to suggest to us, please do, because I'm hoping to go to graduate school, which means I'll need to do the saving cycle all over again. Please comment with that. Please share my video. I am so glad you joined me today. Hopefully I was able to help you out with some ideas. If you have your ideas, please post them. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye!